Kat. How are you? Grab your folder here. I'm very impressed. Everything looks really good. You're doing great. Doing great. I guess let's jump into our little motor hands exercise thing we're working on. You know, this one. This one. Cool. So, I think that was good. I think that was a good exercise I gave you last week. So we were improvising where we were putting it, but only in specific places. And I think what we'll do for this week is a similar thing, improvising where we're putting it, but now with different specific places of where we're putting it. I'm confusing myself. I'll explain and I'll show you. So, what we're going to do is split each measure in half, in a way, as far as where we're putting things. So, the first measure is all 16th notes, so we're going to play the first half of the measure, 16th notes, all on one sound source, and then the second half of the measure, 16th notes, all on another sound source. And of course, we're improvising what those sound sources are. Cool. So, like, let me find 75 here. Okay. So, let me just demonstrate, like, the first measure so you can see what I'm talking about. So, one possible thing you could do is this. Right? You could also do this. Right? You could also do this. Okay, so we're splitting the measure in half, basically, with where we're putting our sounds. And we're going to use that concept for every single measure. Okay, so second measure, it's a whole nother measure of 16th notes, and we're splitting it in half. And we want it to be different from the first measure as far as what sounds we choose. Okay, so first couple measures, it could look like this. Need to open this hi-hat a little bit. Could look like this. Okay, so I'm splitting each measure in half, and the first two measures, even though rhythmically it's the same thing, I'm choosing different ways of voicing that for sounds. Okay. I feel like I'm not explaining very well today, but I think that should make sense. So third measure is 8th notes, and again, we're splitting it in half. So options for that could be this. Or right? Same idea. Splitting it in half with our sound ideas. And then the fourth measure, which is quarter notes, same thing. First two quarter notes are on one sound, the second two quarter notes are on another sound. Maybe this. Or this. Okay? So let me put it together. I'll loop it a bunch of times. I'm improvising my sound sources, splitting them, splitting the measures in half at 75 with the feet. that make sense? Say yes. Yes, it makes sense. Cool. So that'll be good. We'll do that for this week. And maybe next week we'll turn it into double strokes. We're going to do it as paradiddles too at some point. Okay. All right. Eighth Note Backbeat Grooves Part 2. Really nice. I could tell that you like totally have them memorized. I didn't see any mistakes or anything like that. And groove-wise, time-wise, they're sounding pretty good. One little comment, just thinking about your mix when you're playing. So, like the loudest thing in your mix from those videos for this week, and it's changed. I haven't really mentioned it before because the previous weeks were they were better as far as mix goes, but this week your mix, your hi-hat was like the loudest thing in the mix. Some of it is because you didn't have a super tight hi-hat sound. You were kind of just, which is fine. Like the hi-hat can sound however we want it. I actually really liked the hi-hat sound that you had. It's just that it's easy to get loud with it because it was a little bit looser. It was kind of like this. It was kind of like that instead of like this. So that's a really tight chick, chick, chick sound. And this is a little bit sloshier. That's kind of closer to what your sound was. And I really like that sound. Both of those sounds, and any possible sound you have here is totally valid. But as far as the mix goes, the hi-hats were just like the loudest thing in the mix, which we pretty much never want that. Usually, at least with this kind of stuff, we want the kick in the cross stick, the snare, to be really strong, and the hi-hats should be sort of lower in the mix. So let me put us on, let's see, were we at 75 with this too? I think we were. Okay, so like the first one, let me play you like sort of an ideal mix for the first one. And I'll use that same hi-hat sound that you had. Sort of right in there. Do, ga, do, ga. Okay, so the biggest thing here is really getting your cross stick super strong and loud. And to be honest, this is something I still struggle with. And a lot of times, if I'm doing a cross stick thing, I'll be playing it for a while and I'll look down or I'll listen and I'll be like, man, my cross stick's not loud enough. For the last 30 seconds, my cross stick has been too soft. And it really just comes down to like hitting it harder and being aware that if we're playing kind of loud and strong, like I just was, we want the cross stick to be loud and strong too. One thing I'll do if I need a loud, strong cross stick is I flip my stick around backwards. And I would definitely recommend that. It's just easier to get it loud when you do that. Although I've probably talked about this before. Most of the time I don't flip it around because I've gotten good at getting it loud without doing that. But there are still times where I'll go for that. The sound is slightly different too. Sometimes I just want that sound. Sometimes I want this sound. So, but experiment with that. Don't be afraid to flip your sticks around. Like, just because there's a tip on this end and nothing on this end doesn't mean that you have to play them that way all the time. Cool. So, in teaching you about cross stick, I think probably one of the things that I said is that I always keep the heel of my hand on the drum at all times. And I would say that that is not always true. I'd say it's that 90% of the time it's true. But when I just played this a second ago, I was actually pulling my hand off the drum a little bit in order to get more volume. See that? Can you see that? It's a little hard to see with the camera angle. I am keeping the tip of the stick on the head the whole time. That's not coming off ever. That's always on there. It's like it's attached. Okay? But when I'm getting really loud with a cross stick like that and I need to be more forceful with it, I did pull my entire hand off the drum. So if this if this is the drum and this is my hand, which it is, I'm coming off just a little bit, maybe an inch or two at the most. Like that. I'll exaggerate it. See that? My hand's not touching. I'm definitely not coming up that high. And the tip is still on the drum. But it comes off. But could I get that and leave the heel of my hand on the drum? Pretty much. But if it feels good to come off a little bit, I do. Okay. Hopefully that didn't confuse things too much. So mess with that. But you can keep the heel on the drum and just like try to come up higher if you can. Come up as high as you can by flexing your wrist like this. And just put more oomph behind it when you come down. And that'll get you a louder cross stick. Okay? And then as far as the hi-hats being the loudest thing in the mix, you just got to learn to control your right hand. And this is something we have to learn as we move forward. All of us drummers, generally, we want to play our cymbals softer than the drums. The drums, loud, cymbals, soft. It just sounds better that way. Cymbals can get very noisy. They're very high frequency range and kind of ear piercing, especially if we're, I'm all mic'd up here, especially if we're recording. If we don't control our cymbal volume, the mics are just going to pick up a lot of cymbals and not that much drums, and then it doesn't sound good in recordings, basically, to give you a very brief explanation of that. So it's kind of a constant thing of learning how to control our right hand, which is usually what's on the cymbals, and keeping our cymbals in control and being strong with the drums. Okay, cool. So, alright, that was a little bit of a tangent, but worth talking about. Let's dive into the third backbeat groove for this week, because the first two, you were playing them great. It was just that one little mix thing I want to talk about. So I think we can dive into the third one. You're going to write some of your own pretty soon. Those last two spaces are all yours. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. And before we abandon this page completely, we're going to speed them up. And we're probably going to try them a couple different ways. So we're not really done here yet. But let's move on to the third one. So if you got this page in front of you, I'll come around. This one's a little busier in the kick drum. Sorry, no scary flashlight Halloween face today. Actually, you can see that pretty good today. Okay, kick drum, beat 1, the E of beat 1. Kick drum on the and of 2. The of 2, kick drum on the of 2, kick drum on the and of 3, and the of 3. Okay? No kick drums within beat 4. So, do 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 got, do 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 got, do do got, do do got. Okay? And we'll take this nice and slow, like we did with the other ones, starting without a metronome, starting without the left hand, counting out loud 16th notes, and playing the hi-hat 8th notes. So 1 E and 2 E and right? Okay, here we go. Ready, go. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and or even slower. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay, so get that for this week. Shouldn't be too bad, especially after doing the last couple. You're kind of in this zone, I would assume, right now, so it should be pretty good, even though these are different kick drum placements that you haven't necessarily played before, some of them, but shouldn't be too bad. Cool. All right, so that's the goal for this week on that, and then we had our motor hands thing that we were working on, and I guess that's gonna be it, right? That's it for this week. Cool. All right. Hope you're doing well. See you next time. Bye.